Alright, so King Oja episode 33. I just got done watching it. This was part 2 of the Karuja crossover, and overall, this was a really fun episode. This two-parter for the 10-year Karuja crossover has been a lot of fun indeed. And I said this in last week's review that I've never seen like Karuja, I've never seen that Sentai. I've seen Dino Charge, I've seen Dino Supercharged, but I've never seen the original source material of the Sentai. I've seen clips in here and there when I need to do research, and I've heard a lot of people in the community talk about this Sentai, so this was like my overall first experience with these characters, and I had a lot of fun with this two-part episode, because one thing that I really enjoyed about it is, although this is a crossover, both seasons get sort of like an equal amount of screen time, and it doesn't become the sort of Karuja show as they sort of overstep their boundaries, sort of being, hey, it's 10 years celebrating our series, let's make this whole special about us. The one thing I loved about this two-parter is it wasn't sort of like a two-part, like, one-off thing. Like, the stuff that happened in this little story arc is tying into the main event of the series moving forward, but not only that, the plot, like last week's episode, we found out that Jeremy's dad is from this universe. He's from, like, this Sentai world, like the original Sentai world, you could say. Or this Sentai world, you could say. Sentai worlds are complicated. But he's from this world, and you find out that he's a human from this world, and then he sort of came through a wormhole, and then he ended up in, like, the King Oja universe. So that's why Jeremy's half human, half Bugnarok, because, you know, he's got a dad that came from, like, this universe. Now, one thing that's also one of the big bombshells that they also dropped in this universe, and it's sort of like a sort of plot convenience to sort of get the Shoe Gods into this world, and that is that the castle is also a spaceship. And that's kind of a holy shit moment that you get with this episode, learning that the spaceship is, or the castle is a spaceship, but they don't brush it, they brush over it a little bit, but then you get to see it in action. So I do wonder, learning that the castle is a spaceship, that we're going to see more of castle spaceship action moving forward in the show, because we see it once in this episode, but will we see it more moving forward now, knowing that the Galacta insects sort of hang out in space, or they hang out in their own little universe in space, or something like that? Will we see more like castle spaceship action moving forward? But this episode was really great, like the action, the fight scenes, the character moments. It was really great. So let's do the recap. Let's talk about the show and talk about everything going on. Alright, so I probably skipped over this in last week's review, but last week's episode ended with the boss causing a lot of destruction, and it caused a lot of rubble for the sort of hideout area for our heroes where they were taking refuge in. And some of our heroes got injured, so our King Ojas and Prince, they go back to the base and they see that things aren't looking good, as they're sort of hanging out in this rubbly base with debris and everything everywhere. And Gira starts doing his tyrannical laugh and says, hey, you've got to laugh because the enemy wants you to be sad. And then you've got this nice moment of Rita, where Rita tries cheering up everyone, and they remove their mask and makes a face that looks like, because it makes all the children laugh. So it's a nice little moment. And this is one thing I also liked about the episode, where you got to have the King Ojas and the Karujas hanging out and sort of bonding with each other as they find some traits that they have similar. And it was a really nice moment. There's this moment where you have Rita reading manga with Lucky Roo. Lucky Roo's a One Piece character. But the big green thing that's in Dino Charge and King Oja. And Rita really likes the manga. And Rita's like, oh, do you have any me and Mofun? And they're like, what's that? And Rita looks at Lucky Karoo and realizes that they look a little bit like Mofun. And Rita just hugs them and says, I will protect you. I will protect you. You're precious to me. Which was a nice little fun moment as well. But in this episode, we do get to see the King Ojas with some brand new drips, some brand new outfits. And they look pretty good. I do like their civilian outfits that they've got rocking in this episode, so they can sort of like blend in more. When they were wearing them, I thought you'd sort of see them exploring Tokyo and stuff like that with the outfits. But that didn't seem to be the case. They just wore them around the base, so they didn't look too weird and stand out too much. But this is where we also get the bombshell from Jeremy, where Jeremy gives that lore drop where he tells the others saying, hey, my dad came from another dimension, from this dimension, he's the one that made the sculptures, and they look, not the sculptures, the carvings on the wall, and they look exactly the same. And then he drops a reveal that the castle is actually a spaceship, which was a really cool reveal as well in this episode, which I'm hoping we get to see more of later down the line. So also in this episode, you have Amy getting captured by the bad guys, but then you have Prince and Gira rushing in to save her, and then this sort of leads up to the big battle with like the main boss of this episode, or this arc you could say. And because our heroes can't transform, you see them being overpowered. Now, there was this moment earlier on in the episode where Himeno was playing the piano, but the people can't really vibe with the melody because the planet's music and bravery was stolen, so they can't really understand the tune. And then when like the Karujas are asked how did they defeat the bad guys last time, well, they said the earth gathered together and they sung the melody. So you have Himeno on the piano playing the Karuja theme and everyone starts singing it, and you get this really cool moment where the Karujas transform and then they start kicking butt together, which is really great, like a really cool moment where they all form together and then they start kicking butt. And the fight scene we get between the King Ohgas and the Karujas is really great as well. Like, this was some really solid Sentai fight scenes, some fight choreography in this episode, and I really loved it. And I'm glad we got to see, like, more of this in this episode, because like I said, we, in King Ohga and their universe, we've been sort of bounded by those sets that they use. So the action is very limited unless they do fight at the quarry every so often. But in this episode, or these two episodes, because they're in the middle of Japan, they're in sort of the real world, they're not using those sets, they're not using those Mandalorian sets, so they have a lot more free range to sort of blend in with the environment around them and do a lot more stunts here and there, and that's what I really like, and I'm hoping we get to see more of that moving forward in King Ohga, but it doesn't honestly seem like it as they're back to their main universe at the end of the episode. So this episode does end with a big two-part Megazord battle, 2-on-1 Megazord battle, where we get to see the Karuja mech and the King Ohga mech teaming up and defeating the boss in the end, and the day is saved, everything's great again. So the episode ends with our heroes saying goodbye to each other and thanking them for everything they've done to help, but we then get a bombshell learning that Prince's name isn't Prince, it's actually Daigoro, and this is where the other Karujas are quick to catch on and realize, hey, that's a very similar name. And they soon find out that he is the son of Daigo and Amy, which was something that a lot of people had speculated, and the show last week had kind of teased that he's from another timeline in the distant future, so it would sort of tease and speculate that he is the son of Daigo, but there was no sort of like yes or no confirmation. But this episode pretty much solidifies it. So I do wonder if we're going to see the Karujas again in a 10-year later movie or something like that later down the line, or a special or a V cinema. I feel like if we were, it would have been announced by Toei already. So I get the feeling that this like two-parter was a good way to celebrate 10 years of that Super Sentai series, which overall, I thought it was a lot of fun. A little bit disappointing they couldn't get Daigo back, but maybe they've got something else planned in the works. You never know, but overall, this was a really fun episode. And I do wonder where the show is going to go moving forward once our Rangers return back to their own universe, because next week's episode looks really interesting as they're setting up this brand new villain who is this masked figure that we have no idea who it is. So that will be interesting once we find out who that character is. Maybe it's Raculus, because, you know, you had Dabowski's sister sort of missing Raculus once again in this episode, so maybe they're teasing that he's coming back soon. I honestly don't know. It's been a while since anyone's even muttered his name, so he could return soon. You never know. We'll find out. But anyway, guys, I enjoyed this episode of King Ohga. Lots of fun. I'm still enjoying the show. It's crazy that the show will be wrapping up in like 20 episodes, in like maybe 17 episodes, less than that. But this show's fun. I like it. King Ohga's been a lot of fun. Really great storytelling, really great action, and overall a fun show in general. So with that said, I think I'm going to bring this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out, take care, bye.